Hi, good day everyone. It's Alex again. I'm coming from my beautiful garden, which is actually today the first, not really the first, but like the first proper, it feels like summer already. And I wanted to quickly hop on and do a video for the newcomers and for those of you that are really just starting out, because at the beginning this was supposed to just be a detox, a fast. And I thought, okay, let's put out the September fast challenge because I'm fasting and I thought it would be fun to fast with many of you together. But now this group is turning into, well, what it is really, the detoxification, cellular detoxification group. And we are all at different stages, and clearly, and there's some of you that are really new and some of you that have been on this path for several years already. And so I really want to be able to hold space for all of you and offer something for all of you, because when you're just starting out, because we have so many newcomers and so many beginners, so many people on different levels, I wanted to make this one in particular about where do I start. So the first place to start is with the understanding that a detoxification is a process. What we have heard about, juice fasting and the various cleanses that can be deep to a degree, but ultimately, in my personal experience and what I've seen with my clients, what I keep seeing is that unless we see this really as a lifestyle, then you're not going to get the desired results. This does not mean that you need to detox forever. That's not what I'm saying. But we need to come to the understanding that because of the toxic world that we live in and the accumulated toxicity in our bodies, in our parents' body, whom we come from, we all have a much higher toxic load than we ever used to have. And just this morning somebody commented on a different thread and said, oh well, as long as you eat fruit and vegetables and a little bit of nuts and seeds here and there, or mainly fruit, a little bit of greens, nuts and seeds, then you're going to be fine. You never need to detox. And he added, that is because, that's how chimpanzees live, and animals don't need to detox, so therefore we don't need to detox. And well, in an ideal world, that is absolutely true. But the animals, and in this case the chimpanzees, they didn't, or I think you say chimpanzees. Hi Melanie, yay, nice to see you, nice to see you. So like in this case the chimpanzees, they didn't go and gorge themselves on toxic food that has been packaged, that has been processed. They didn't get vaccines, they didn't have medication, antibiotics, etc., etc., right? So of course they're not going to be as toxic as we are. Plus they don't have all the, which is such a big part of the process, they don't have all the toxic emotions that we have. They don't have all the programming, right? They are just the way they are. They rest in their true nature. And I remember when I first started this process, I remember having this insight, as we do have beautiful deep insights as we go through the process of detoxification. I remember looking at the birds, and I have these little hummingbirds, I think they're called, and they just do their thing, right? They don't wake up one morning and go, no, today I'm not gonna fly onto that flower because that flower, whatever, is pissing me off, or today I'm just saying, sit it here on my branch and I'm gonna just be cross, or I'm gonna be sad, right? That doesn't happen to a bird. And so when I was watching that and just watching how they just do their thing, they follow their nature, and they are always joyful in that nature. And it's not just birds, it's animals in general. They just are. And we are the only animal that makes an issue out of our nature and out of our being. And obviously we are in the process of overcoming this on a global level, I do believe, but it's still going to take generations. So right now, this is what we have to deal with. We have our emotions to deal with, and our emotions, and I will keep on saying it because that is my big thing. Hi Nichi or Nikki, Saint Lynn, hello, and Eureka, nice to see you all here in my garden. So yeah, it's until we sort out all of our emotions, we are not going to rid ourselves of toxicity as easily as animals, you know, and that's a big one to understand when I say, where do we begin? The other thing to understand is that all this acquired toxicity is stored, is partially really deeply part of the fabric of our being. So we, you know, and that's such a vast statement because it's not just physically part of us, but every single physical manifestation also goes together with a way of being, with an emotional way of being, right? And so, for example, when like I you know, was born from my mother with definitely heavy lymphatic issues, which then later became thyroid issues and pituitary gland issues, which is part of why I'm short, because everybody that is short or shorter than average has pituitary issues. Not that, you know, our mind is all perfect and it's all, but that is the reason. And so as that, I have experienced myself naturally in a way that only a shorter person will experience themselves, in a way that only a person with lymphatic issues will experience herself, and so forth. So everything that we are, that makes us up, gives us a blueprint for the way that we will express ourselves in the world, and we don't even realize that. You know, it gives us a way of moving in the world, and the way that I really became aware of that, you know, it was always running in the back of my mind, but I became acutely aware of that last year when, after my second 40-day fast, where I really felt so completely, I think it was day 35 or something, I was feeling so completely liberated in my body. I felt so light, and it really felt, for the first time, it was like, okay, wow, this is the body that I always knew I meant to have, I meant to inhabit, but it was clogged and plastered with all these other layers that didn't really belong to me as my particular and unique expression in the world. But at the same time, of course, they belonged to me because they were part of my ancestral line, in that case from my mother's line. And funny enough, during the fast, during that particular fast, I had worked deeply, you know, not by choice, by arising. I was working deeply through my mother's lineage. And just as, I think it was this yesterday or whatever, when I talked about, you know, the whole enema drama in the bathroom, where I thought of my father. And so that was in my first fast. In my first fast, I went through the whole working through father issues. The second fast, it was working through mother issues. And so it's interesting how, you know, we only are able to become aware of that and of the impact once we start working deeply with our bodies and with the detoxification process. So my whole point is that we cannot know what we don't know. And once you start the process of detoxing your body, all these little things become apparent and show themselves, and those are also part of your growth and part of your evolutionary process. So for me, you know, it was finally letting go of this stuff that was literally hanging on me, you know, like I always had these big thighs compared to the rest of my body. And obviously the shame that goes with it, you know, because it implies whatever, that you're a glutton and, you know, all these things. And instead I realized I was carrying my mother's shame, or not even just my mother's, but my female lineage shame, because that is what we carry on our thighs, you know, and the shame of being fully ourselves, of celebrating our beauty, of celebrating our uniqueness, of celebrating the message that we are here to give, and of just celebrating our joy and everything else. And so it goes, you know, so each body part will mean different things, and it also will be unique to your expression. And so when I realized that, and that for the first time I felt so free in my body, it's like, wow, yes, I feel so free now because I am liberated of carrying all of that. And that it's not just the weight, but it's the energetics that are caught on a cellular level in that weight, you know. And so to backtrack, and without making this video too long, I encourage you to take all of these things in when you start your path of detoxification. You know, obviously some people may go, oh, I'm not interested in all of that, I just want to detox. It's like, sure, this is my way. Like, I don't know how to extrapolate this emotional process from just the physical, you know. So then maybe this is not for you, because for me it is all one and the same. It's the same thing. Like I suffered severely from depression for years, and yet whenever I looked at myself back as a child, I only really remembered myself as this, up until the age of 5 or 6, I remembered myself as this joy, this ball of joy that would run around to everybody, and sort of, you know, I was the one always sitting on people's laps and kissing everybody. I was like, how? So what happened, you know? The energetics and emotions are the most important aspect for me. Keep it coming. Yes, thank you. Obviously, I mean, most of us here will resonate. That's why, you know, there's a mutual receptivity. So when I looked at, you know, what happened to that little girl, and I realized I had taken on, and this was another amazing realization that I had one night, I think while I was working on father issues, actually, I literally woke up in the middle of the night with this thought of, oh shit, I'm carrying all my father's pain on my shoulders, in my shoulders, and everything that goes with it. You know, he sort of is a depressed man. He's always been depressed and very contracted. And so when I woke up with this knowing, at the same time I was like, okay, I want to be free. And I tried to call my father in, and obviously he wasn't interested. So I was like, okay, you have to deal with this. What do I do? And immediately the other thought process was, but hang on, how can I just get rid of this weight and liberate myself from it? Because what if this is all I am born to do? I mean, how radical of a thought is that? You know, and when I realized that that was my thinking, somewhere under all of it, I had bought into the belief that unless I carry my father's pain and depression, because I was strong enough to do so, I would have no purpose and I would therefore die. And so when I felt that night, I felt all this fear burning up in my chest of, okay, are you going to then shake it off and risk potentially dying? Because, well, what if that is all you came here to do? Or, and therefore die free? Or are you going to carry on carrying it and keeping small and keeping yourself locked in that pain? And that is when, you know, I just sort of energetically went, pah, shaking it off, and come what may, I will embrace it, but I shall be free. And that was such an empowering moment. And it's amazing how, you know, it sounds small in some way, and it sounds like, oh, really? Is that what happened? And for each one of us, we will have our different realizations, but that is, for me, that is what keeps us locked in our pain body, and what keeps us locked in our toxicity, you know. So it's a combination of the food and the emotions. Back to where do you start? So you start with this awareness, and then for me, one of the biggest life-changing shifts that I had made was stop breakfast. Even though it was and still is my favorite meal, now I have my breakfast, whatever, in the afternoon or evening, whenever I start eating, depending on what I'm doing. And so stopping breakfast as a start, as much as that is, initially was like, but that's what everybody says is the most important meal. Your body is really in detox mode up until roughly 11 o'clock. That's our natural rhythm. And even then, but I won't go into that, I'm talking for beginners, it's fine. I was going to say 1 meal a day later in the day is absolutely fine. But like, I'm often not there yet. I have my periods, and then sometimes I need 2 meals a day, like one in the afternoon, one in the later evening. But start with giving up breakfast or pushing your breakfast out, and ideally dry fast. And it's a practice. And I know that what typically will come up for people is like, but I want to detox now. I want to have it all now. I want to lose my weight now. And yes, I've gone through that whole circus myself for years. And eventually was like, okay, you know what? This didn't work because the weight went, it came back, struggled, all the mental issues of like, oh, I want, but I can't, but I shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. And eventually was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I want to be done. I want to be embodied in all my knowing. I don't want to struggle with daily, what do I eat? Why am I eating it? Why am I picking up weight? Why am I losing, all of that. And so this is a place where if you want to do the work to finally end the struggle, then this is the way. It's a way of making peace, to say, okay, this is my piece of work, and I'm going to work it with love on a daily basis. So there is no quick fix, as always, with all things, there is no quick fix. But if you love yourself enough to, on a daily basis, make the small changes and make the shifts in consciousness, because this is what it's all about. It's understanding that we have been taught so much bullshit, this whole industry with all its products and philosophies and contradictions. I mean, there was a time where I felt like, okay, please somebody tell me what is the truth. And it ultimately, there is no the truth. The truth is there are foods that are least obstructive and most obstructive. So if you look on a linear, on a scale, and here you have, like, at the end of the scale, you have the most obstructive foods, which are definitely animal products and all the processed foods, or I should say the processed foods, and then it's animal products. And then you slowly go down the scale, fats, nuts and seeds, and fruit and, well, vegetables, and then fruit is the least obstructive. So I don't, even though sometimes I do say bad food, good food, but in general I don't like calling good food or bad food, because it's all relative. Something, when I first started out, or tried to start out on my raw food journey, I remember probably like 10, not even longer, I don't know, 15 years ago, whatever, I started on this journey, and I started eating tons of, everything was raw. But because I hadn't cleansed before, I was craving all these fats. I was eating nuts and I was eating dried fruit, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I ended up so grossly constipated it wasn't even funny. I looked 6 months pregnant, and obviously I said, this is not working. So it's so easy to fall into dogmatic thinking, whereas what I like to point out and really stress, there is no good and no bad food. It all depends where you're at. And obviously that is where, yes, working with somebody individually, so that's where my private clients have the privilege to then, every 2 minutes message me or say, is this right, is this not right, or obviously we prepare lists and everything. But at the same time, is just as a start, step away from the idea of good and bad food and understand most obstructive, least obstructive. And to clean the body out, you need to work with least obstructive foods that you will digest easily. And most of us have huge digestive issues. Unless you've done deep cleansing, you have deep digestive issues. There is gut dysbiosis, there is biofilm in the colon while you are not absorbing food properly. Like for me, for many years I thought I'm just, you know, a glutton. I just love to eat lots. And another bullshit idea that I bought into. Meanwhile, it wasn't that at all. It was simply that my body was not absorbing the nutrients that it was so desperately needing, and so it was signaling me hunger, 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 because it was actually starved. And so now when I look at a lot of the larger people, I see people starving, you know, because that's also, it's like, what bullshit idea do we propagate that people want to, you know, people are glutton, or people just, or they just like to eat. I don't buy that anymore. You know, when you are fully nourished and when your body is fully functioning and when your emotions are fully sorted out, then we never need to gorge on food. Then we're going to love ourselves deeply enough to know what is truly nourishing, and we're only going to take in what we need, and the body will process it, so that even if we have a little bit of extra, the body's fine with it. You know, you're never going to gain weight, contrary to popular belief and contrary to what I also thought. You're never going to gain weight on fruit, for example, unless you're not detoxed and you're eating fats. And you know, so yes, then there's all the variables. But so if you stop eating breakfast or pushing it out and playing around with that and playing with your dry fasting, so maybe initially you dry fast until 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, you don't have water from, or you know, juice or whatever liquids from 7 p.m. 6 p.m. until next day 8 p.m. and then you push it out to 9 and 10 and 11 and so forth, you know, and then you only have, you break your fast then. So that's the number one thing. If you want to start changing and seeing changes in your health and detoxing, incorporate dry fast and push out your meal to a break fast of ideally fruit at around 11-12 in the morning. Hi Heidi, thank you. I enjoy listening to you and learning. Thank you so much. I must be holding on to shame too, as thighs and bum are where I hold it all in comparison to the rest of my body, so out of proportion. Yeah, we all, you know, we all have, and that's where then it's like, oh, you know, I started loving my thighs and realizing this is where it's all stored, and that it's not about fault. It's just, okay, so I am strong enough to undo these lessons. And now I love my thighs and they're beautiful. And yes, will there ever be little skinny mini thighs? No, and it's completely fine. Hi Heidi. So yeah, it's, you know, it's really, that's also, it's learning to love ourselves, but love ourselves really from a higher perspective, that okay, this body, you know, is not who we are. We are so much more, and yet this body was given to us in loan for the time being, so that we, through this body, we can learn. And at the same time, that if you have an idea of how your body is supposed to look like and how you're supposed to, hi Mariette, I love you Mariette, thank you for your support always. So as long as we have, when we have an idea of how our body is supposed to look like, hi Suzanne, then that image and how you're supposed to move in your body, keep that image close to your heart, because that is the true image. You know, for years, like, I was running around trying to get that perfect gym body and killing myself at the gym, killing my adrenals and you know, all of that, killing my thyroid, because again the whole endocrine is connected, until I realized I don't even like the gym. You know, I was a gym rat for years and I was proud of it, and I sort of, yes, I love the gym. Bullshit, I hated the gym. I hated the smelly indoor. Now, you know, I only work out outdoors. in summer, and yes, my yoga practice is indoors, but I do my workouts outdoors, and they're like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's what brings me joy. I move in the way that my particular body wants to move. And finally I have this body that it's like, okay, wow, yes, this is now a body that I can relate to. And what's even better is feeling that at the age of 43 I feel better than I did when I was in my 20s, certainly. And I actually, most days, I feel like a little 12-year-old. And that I can still feel that it's still improving, like I'm not done yet. I'm not done on my journey. And so for the beginners, to see this as a journey, to understand that there is so much more than just the physicality. And as disturbing as that all can be at the beginning, because we so want everything now and we compare ourselves to others. But when you just, if it resonates with you, when you then say, okay, I'm going to love myself with patience through this journey, and I will take all the lessons that come my way as a way to fortify myself, to become stronger. That is when your body, and not just your body, but your whole being will truly start changing. And you will become who you knew you were always meant to be. Does that all make sense? If you have any questions, please ask, because I can so get sidetracked so that's something I'm still learning. So thank you for your patience. I'll start with something and I'll land up somewhere completely different. Another big thing actually for beginners, because for me now it's such an automatic, but I know for most people it's not. Everything that we put on our body, in fact everything that we use in our household, but everything that we put certainly on our body is meant to be, it should be completely natural. And I used to be in the fashion industry, so I used to love the more products, the better. Anything new, Alex went out and bought it. And, smelly things, I was like, I loved all these smells, and, smelly hair stuff and smelly body stuff, and you name it, put it on. Never realizing that also all those products contain toxic chemicals, and I don't care if it's Chanel and if it's Sisley and La Prairie and whatever, they all have toxic ingredients that unless you can actually eat it, don't put it on your body. And initially it seemed like such a big thing for me, it probably took me a couple of years actually to completely get there and stop everything. But actually when we moved into this house 4 years ago, I decided, okay, this is where it all stops. No more toxic products, not for my house, not for my body, not for my kids, not for anything. And it's amazing how now, I used to take 45 minutes at best in the bathroom and doing my hair and, all the things that I don't even know now. What did I used to do in that bathroom? And now it's in and out. In 5 minutes, I can be ready for any adventure, and feel happy and confident in my body. So maybe that's also something to do with age, I don't know. So you just fruit after daily dry fast, no bubbly, correct? Yes, to begin with, the bubbly, we can get into that at another time. The bubbly is only really when you do the longer dry fast, and as a beginner, don't push yourself for the dry fast. Go with your daily 16, 18 hours, because if you consistently do that, and if you do not wear yourself out, which we all tend to do at the beginning, because it's like, okay, let's blast through it, and it inevitably backfires, because then the cravings come, the detox process or the healing process really starts, the healing crisis, and then inevitably we will have cravings, because as the pathogens, the candida and parasites start dying off, we will experience die-off symptoms, which often are accompanied by cravings. So you want to go as gently as possible, especially at the beginning, so that your mind can catch up, your mind and your emotions. Any suggestions for dealing with the father wound? Yeah, look, the father wound is the mother wound. Those are our two original wounds, and I was discussing that the other day with somebody. they're meant to be there, you know, they are meant to grow us. That is, you know, it's almost, that is our gift. So, and obviously knowing that we have chosen our parents, and you know, they are giving us the exact pain that we need for our soul growth. And I do agree, in my case, I can see all of that. And in many ways, it's daunting to think that I'm going to do the same thing, or I'm doing already the same thing to my children. Hopefully not as bad, but you know, hi Nietzsche, nice to see you here. And so, you know, first of all, to acknowledge it's perfect as it is, and that it's meant to, you know, the father wound, the parent wound, we are meant to rub up against it for our growth. And whenever, and I still have my moments of victimhood, you know, I had a big one yesterday, and then I just hold myself there, you know, the poor me, the victim. It's like, okay, you know, it's not real, but there is the little one that perceives it to be real, so let's give her some nurturance, and that's okay. But ultimately, it's feeling deeply into it, and especially in this fasting, you know, in the environment of fasting, is feel deeply into it and allow the feelings to arise. I often find what's easy for me is to do the work with my husband, because you know, he, in those moments, I actually ask him to kind of stand in for me as the father figure and to hold that energy. And then I simply sit, and either we do eye gazing meditations, or sometimes you know, we do almost like a role play, whatever arises for me. Like, you know, I've never felt I could go and have cuddles from my dad and real love like my husband gives to my children now. And so there are times when I feel like, oh, I want that. That's what I wanted. And so we do have the moments where, you know, we do sacred role playing, and he becomes the father, and I'm allowed to feel, okay, what feelings have I not felt into? And you know, that may sound very weird to some people, but it's worked fabulously. Other practices is, trying to think now, father issues. Well, essentially father issues is everything that has to do with authority. So when we feel into, yeah, you can relate. So, you know, sometimes I'm kind of like, I have a little bit of an aversion to too much technique, because I feel like, you know, maybe also I've done so much of it, and I feel like all these techniques never really got me anywhere. And that's why now I feel, okay, just feel what is there, and then feel, and that's the hardest part in some ways, feel what is your authentic desire to do with that emotion. Like for me, it then was like speaking to my husband and say, can you hold space for me? Can you hold space and play the father role, you know, without getting freaked out or weirded out. It's just a moment. I need you right now to be that role for me. And then by playing that role, other emotions come up, and then I'm able to feel into those emotions. Hello Alex, it's been a few days. I've been totally off court and annoyed and away. I'm back. Yay, I enjoy the bubbly and take it when I break, start fast. Da, da, da. Okay, cool, awesome. Took a moment to realize you meant me. Oh yes, okay, sorry, because there is Nietzsche and then there's Nikki, and I never know who's who. Okay, sorry, Nikki. Hi Francisca, nice to see you here. So yeah, all of these woundings are, you know, it's as long as we realize they are there and they will be there repeatedly, the layers will come off. And just as you think that you've done all your, you know, you're done with father issues, there's more. And just as you think that you're done with mother issues, there's more. But that it's the grist for the mill. And of course, eventually, you know, we do get to the place where we're integrated, and we accept also that there will always be more. And I found making peace with that, you know, now when things come up, instead of making me angry, I go, oh, I wonder what more there is to learn. You know, I wonder what more there is to feel, and what more empowerment there is to step into on my side. So yeah, I don't want to make it too long. I feel like, you know, just as for beginners, where to start. And when and if beginners are watching this, please ask your questions, because obviously, you know, everybody is at a different stage here, and so that makes it hard for me to, you know, just babble off to, well, where do beginners start, because everybody's, you know, is a beginner on a different stage. Can I do an enema in the morning during daily dry?